Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Ethics. It's the Hope I Can't Stand with myself, Conor Bromley, and Taff All-Endon. We are here to preview Sunderland's game with Everton. We obviously recorded this before press conferences. So, like last week when we found out Alderete was not fit on Thursday, we obviously did not have that in our sort of preview for this game. So, this is going to be a more not a direct preview in the sense of we won't know how both teams line up, but more sort of an idea of what to expect from Everton, how we could approach the game tactically, and ultimately how we win the game. So we're hopefully going to run for about 25 minutes because, we are kicking on late in the night here for our recording because we've obviously done the other two. So let's begin. Let's talk about Everton. They really need a win. 3 defeats in the last 5 games. I watched them against Tottenham yesterday evening. Well, Sunday evening as we record this. So we're recording this on Monday. They didn't play too badly. Undone by set pieces. Feels like though they need to probably win this game. It feels like a game that they're probably looking at thinking newly promoted Sunderland. We need to get ourselves back on the horse. And also we have the added drama, so to speak, of David Moyes finally returning to the Stadium of Light.
I am happy if that's how they finish, how they think. I don't think that they will be doing that. I think the last game where people look at Sunderland and say, "That's a nice, that's 3 points we should be getting." I think the last time we were underestimated was this weekend just gone. So I don't think that Everton will be coming to this game thinking, "Well, yes, 3 easy points." That said. It's got to be a game that they look at, but they're coming to the Stadium of Light. People are going to be frightened of doing that, and particularly as we're doing so much better than everybody expects, they will be careful and they will be ready, more so than Chelsea were at the weekend. So I don't think that we get any more of that attitude. I think our cover's blown. We're pretty good.
What do you think? Everton will do. How do you think they'll approach the game? Because are they going to come here and think a draw is a good result? Because this is a game we've talked about this in the match review episode of sort of my psyche on this, and like I'm still viewing Sunderland as a team that's trying to avoid relegation, and because of that, I think that when teams like Everton, who are established in the Premier League, come to the Stadium of Light, they must be thinking we can win this game. But as you said, obviously, it probably won't happen that teams think that anymore. But I can't imagine Everton coming to the Stadium of Light thinking a draw, but then I also think back to the opening day of the season when they played Leeds away, and they very much played for the draw that day and ended up getting done 1-0 with a dodgy penalty. So I'm just not sure what to expect from Everton and whether or not they'll sit in and maybe try and give us the ball, or if they will try and take the game to us and try and get some goals and unsettle the crowd.
I remember watching that game against Leeds, and I thought Everton were appalling that day. And I looked at them that day, and I thought, good God, they've got some. They're in trouble. They're a team that we should be targeting to replace us in the relegation zone. But they've picked up some good results since then. And I don't know. This is probably the game I least want, apart from the Mags game. This is the game I least want because it's David Moyes, and I would dearly love to put one on him. But that's not the way it usually goes, is it? Those people come out to haunt us. So, this one's bothering me, I have to say.
Do you not think, though, like that? For me, I look at David Moyes, and while in that 16-17 season and the way he left in that Chelsea game where we did the Guard of Honor and we kicked the ball out on 26 minutes and everything else that went on that season and how useless it was, and he dismantled that Sam Allardyce team. I mean, I can get angry about David Moyes, but fundamentally, we were circling a drain at that point anyway. I mean, we were ultimately going to head for relegation. I feel like my animosity towards him now is not really what it was 9 years ago, where I was pretty fizzing about it. Like, I just sort of think that, to be honest, as a fan base, we'd be better off just ignoring David Moyes as a factor in this game.
No, I hate him.
No,
I get I should be over it, but look, we've had some terrible times, but he played the most miserable football that we've seen. That was back in the day when managers still made calls on players, and he bought Ndong and
Delabodji.
£8 million. He hadn't kicked a ball, and these people turned
Peanut.
up.
Oh.
I think we were like the 8th biggest spenders or something that season, weren't we? We spent
a lot.
Well.
This is what Dick always does though. When he was at Everton back in the day, he was like, "Oh, we just don't have any money, any resources." And yet every year they were like, "Oh, 15 million on Fellaini. Yakubu will bring in for 12. Andy Johnson will bring in for 12. Bilyatinov, who they brought in, they spent a fortune on. They always spent money, but his narrative is, "Oh, I can barely rub 2 pennies together here."
No, I don't. I'm not prepared to forget. I would like us to give them a beating. I mean, too much. I don't mind Everton. I quite like Everton. I quite like their fans. I think they're a nice club. But I cannot lie. I don't want them to go down in particular. But there is a significant portion of me that last away game of the season, the penultimate game of the season, if we sent Moyes out of a job, that would be very satisfying indeed. So no, I mean, for me, I'm full of dread because I dearly would like to shove one up him and hammer them. I would like that to happen. But
the worst one for a returning player, that in my opinion, the one that hurt me the most was Darren Bent when he came back with Villa. Because honestly, like Darren Bent, for me, obviously my age, I was sort of 16 when Darren Bent was in his pomp at Sunderland, and he was like my guy. I loved Darren Bent, my favorite player. I just loved everything about him, and then the way he left was so heartbreaking. I used to tweet him at least once a month, calling him a wanker. Like, that was me. That was just me at the time. And then he came back with Villa, and he got a horrible reception that day. And obviously it comes full circle. He ends up relegating us to League One. It is what it is. But yeah, that's the worst. And one that we've had.
He's usually still quite complimentary about us, even after all of that, isn't he?
Yeah, I interviewed him with Roker Report, maybe about 2019, talking about his time at Sunderland. I did.
You still haven't replied to my tweets.
I did tell him that was like, it took us a long time to get over his departure. I think you can pinpoint a lot of our downfall as a club probably comes from the fact we sold him and we didn't really replace him properly.
Jean leaving so soon after we got him as well was a blow, I think.
Yeah. But we've ended up now on a very different tangent to where we are. So Everton, back to them.
Sorry.
Not bad v Spurs. It was probably me that went away there, to be fair. 1 away win this season at Wolves. They won 3-2. 12.4 XG. They've only scored 9 goals, and my eyes are telling me they're not clinical. Beto seems to miss a lot of chances, even though he's a proper handful. They've got a really high expected goals against. They've conceded 12 goals, but they've got 13.9 expected goals against, so which suggests we should get chances in the game. And I think we are good at stifling the opposition and preventing them getting good chances. So for me, that this feels like it could follow sort of a similar pattern to the Wolves game, but obviously we're against a better team. But it's going to be a sort of low score, and I would say it being like a 1-goal game. And I think from our perspective, it's can we sort of either get an early goal or keeping it a draw and then try and nick one late on, as we seem to be very good at doing right now.
I think we are somewhere between Wolves and Brentford. I think this is another one of those teams that all play very similar, to varying degrees. Palace, Brentford, Fulham, they all play in this kind of way where they will sit quite low. They're quite happy with long balls, and they will get chances. And that kind of sums up Everton. They're not quite as good as some of those teams, but that's how they play. I think they're third for long balls in the division as well. So I'm quite happy for them to pump up long balls. They're kind of average for crosses. They're kind of average for everything else. They will get chances and die, depending on which one turns up. Can be a handful, but will he? These are chance creations. At the centre of the crosshair there is Everton. I mean, they create average chances more than we do, but I would say that our chances are we're more clinical with ours. And if you look at their finishing here. Again, Sunderland's finishing is better than them, so those things kind of balance out. And in much of the sort of tables on Foot Mob, they're kind of in the middle for big chances missed, all those sorts of things. So I think they are not too dissimilar to us, but I think that the way they play, I think we should be relatively comfortable with. I don't think this is a surprise package. I don't think it's one that you have to think greatly about to play it. It's not like going away to Stamford Bridge or going to Manchester United. I think this is a much more straightforward opponent, no less a difficult one, just in a different fashion. They will be, they will sit tightly. They will play long balls. They would be happier with the flanks than Chelsea were, and they have talent that occasionally turns on in Die. So they could win. I think we are the better side, but that doesn't translate into a given, I think. But I would certainly hope that we could win this.
Yeah, sure. I think it's got a potential to be a pretty special night for us. A Monday night game under the lights, the stadium will be buzzing. It does have the potential to be one of them special stadium like evenings. We don't know how the results have went potentially the weekend, but we could be setting up potentially first v second if we did win this game to play Arsenal the following Saturday evening. So I think there's the chance for this to be a very special game of football if all the stars
and the return of David Moyes. And for all of those reasons, I don't like it. For all of those reasons, it is the hope I can't stand, because there it is, right on a plate in front of you, and I just think, how often do we come through these situations? It just makes me nervous.
Yeah,
it is the hope.
That's fair enough.
I'm not even going to see the game. I've got this is stupid. I don't know why I signed up for it. I am in Brentford at Sky Studios that night. They are trying something new. I am being put into some stupid booth with 3 other Sunderland fans and some Everton fans. I've got no idea. And they're not even going to show me the game. They're going to show me clips of the game as we go along and ask me to respond to them. So they just, I know. So I won't even know the full result until after the game. And then they'll say, well, what do you think now? So if somebody doesn't get a red card for a tackle against us, and then I don't know, they're going to try and stitch you up, I guess. So if you could just text me the scores as they go along. If they don't confiscate my phone, I will know. We
talked about this in propaganda about the phone signal at the Stadium Light, so I'll try, but my WhatsApp won't be
So I am going to know even less about the game until after it finishes than you will.
Yeah, that's not ideal. The tactical approach, I think there's a few interesting things we can talk about here, because we've got Alderete, who obviously should be back from concussion protocol. We've got Talby, who obviously has been coming on the left wing and has looked fantastic and probably thinks he deserves a chance at a start. But obviously you've got Enzo Lefebvre who's playing fantastic on the left side. Traore on the right wing. Is that something we're going to try again? Are there other changes in there to potentially make? We played 5 at the back. We talked about this in the review show, kind of a 5 at the back this past weekend. Does he potentially use that again? I would suggest probably not, but there's a lot of decisions for the manager to make. But let's go through them one by one. Alderete, do you see the manager throwing him back into the start 11?
I say this a lot. I think Le Bris is pretty loyal to those people he considers his number 11, his best 11. What I don't know is whether what his best 11 at the back is in his mind. He clearly likes Dan Ballard, but would he be in the best 11 at the start of the season? I don't know. I think the long-term back 4 is Mukiele at right back, which means you have Alderete and Ballard. So I don't know. Does he do that this weekend? It would be deeply unfair on Trey Hume to lose his spot just for that. So I don't know if he comes back in. Normally, if the player is in Le Bris' first 11, he does go back in if he's fit. But it depends. He said he didn't guarantee that he would be fit after concussion protocols, but he should be. But I mean, it's a whole other week, so you'd hope so.
Difficult one.
Yeah, I'm sure he would. I don't know. I don't even know what I would do if I were him. Would I put him straight back in? I think I would, because Hertrauder's not a natural left footer. So the only one you've got is Alderete, isn't it? And he's so comfortable on the ball, and he's so good at spreading the ball and playing the ball that I would play him. because he gives you that capacity for ball comfortableness and playing out from the back, which I think we will have. I don't really envisage Everton pressing aggressively away from home against the team they now think are a bit more dangerous. I don't, so you will have the time for him to play that. And even when people do press him, he just sort of gracefully glides past them. So I'd be tempted to play him.
So as we sit here right now, are we saying that it's be obviously Roofs in goal, and we saying Hume at right? Are you saying McCreely at right back? Is it finally time to go McCreely right back, Ballard, Alderete, Reinildo? But Trey Hume, for me, over the last couple of weeks, is we were worried about his form. Certainly the Man United game, we talked about it. Now I'm looking at it and thinking, well, Trey Hume's had his best games. So I feel like you can't bring him out.
I know. I think it's a horrible decision, but it's a horrible decision. I mean, who do you drop? Because if you're playing 4 at the back there, all 5 of them are the best 4, which is the problem.
Is maybe it something we look at in terms of the opponent? Because it's going to be Jack Grealish on the left.
Yeah.
So who deals best with Jack Grealish? And I would say that the player that deals best with Jack Grealish is McCreely, not Hume.
Well, it was interesting when they are pushing up the fullbacks and folding them. If you watch the review of the Chelsea game, the folding of the players into midfield, the fullback that was chosen to fold into midfield was Hume, not Reinildo, because then that meant that, that was easy because we didn't have another left back to fold the other way. Otherwise, you might have alternated that during the game. Who knows? But Mukiele as a natural right back, maybe that was just the sensible thing to do because you have a natural right back who can shuffle across there. But maybe it's also an indication that he prefers Mukiele to be the right back, which is why he chooses that folding. I don't know. I think it's probably just makes sense because we didn't have another natural left footer for Reinildo to do that. So I don't know. I mean, maybe answers lie further upfield. I cannot see Hume playing as a right wing. So, I don't know. Somebody's got to go, and I think it's a horrible decision about who, unless you just say, Alderete, just take a break. But
which you could do.
You could do, but then we have no left-sided centre half, and he is the best. I think the best ball player in that back line. And is that what you're going to do? You're going to start at home with a 100% record against a team that you really would like to beat. That would give you, are you going to? You're going to play. Le Bris is ruthless in these kinds of things. I want to win. I need the most points I can get. And I think if you're thinking like that, then the best ball player in the back line, who's our only left-sided centre half, plays. I don't know who misses out, but I think that's your starting point. And if he's fit, I think that's what Le Bris does. But I don't know. I don't want to have to pick who misses out.
No,
because I can't.
It's a hard decision, isn't it?
Yeah.
In terms of as we move up the field, we've got Xhaka, Siddiqui, yes. Then that other position is a bit harder to decide on. So there's a few ways we can do this. So I'll sort of run through some of the options that are in my head. You can either play Chris Riggin there, which we've seen. You could play Geertruida in there, which we've seen at times, and he played really well. So do you give him the chance to play, even though it's a slightly different position? Do you give him a chance to play? Do you potentially sit him in front of the back 4 and let Xhaka play further forward, as we did see in the game against Chelsea? Do we maybe change that around? But I think that's a big risk. Do you move Lefay in there, which means we can play Talby on the left wing, but then the problem is Lefay would then be playing probably on the right side of central midfield, which probably isn't his ideal position. There's Daniel as well, who I'm guessing wouldn't be in because you've not seen him play minutes, but there is options there. What do you think? What of those options, or another option that I've not thought of?
Well, you don't move Xhaka from the base of the midfield because he controls the tempo and decides whether we take the dropping midfield ball or the ball down the wing. So you don't do that. I don't know how much of a thing it is, but he seems not to want to play Talby and Adingra together. But that's against very strong teams. You don't do that where you need to defend a lot. Maybe he will do against Everton. I don't know. I'm not saying that they're not strong. I think they do pose threat. But I don't know if he'll play two out-and-out wingers. So which one do you play? The solution at the minute seems to be Le Fay on the left and bring on Talby after 65 minutes. Maybe he doesn't change that, but if I was Talby, I'd be thinking, when do I start? Every time I come on, I've made a difference. When do I start? So I don't know, because you move. I mean, if the problem we've got is the right wing slot. If we think you don't get quite enough out of Traore, but he does the job he's told. Rig has flashes of brilliance there, but then a couple of games, can sometimes disappear late on. Maybe that's okay. Maybe you say, I'll play Rig for an hour, and then I'll bring on Adingra. Maybe I'll start. I don't know. Or maybe I start Adingra on the right, and I play Le Fay on the left, and then after an hour, I bring on Rig and Talby, and I change the pace on both wings and the style of play for Le Fay. And maybe you do that. You alternate them. Le Fay and Adingra start, and maybe you then come on and after an hour with Rig and Talby. It's really hard, but these are wonderful places to be. If Talby hadn't done so well on the left wing, things might be a bit easier. And if we didn't have 5 great defenders, but probably likely to play 4 of them at home, then these wouldn't be problems. The only thing I would be clear about is Wilson Isidore starts up top and Xhaka plays at the base of the midfield. It's the only thing I'm clear about.
And
Roofs in goal. Yeah, Roofs in goal.
Yes.
Yeah. So there are options, but I think it's about trying to be flexible, trying to be solid. And I don't think he'll play 2 out-and-out wingers to start with. But maybe we see them come on at various points or come off at various points.
What about, we've touched a little bit on, I don't know, actually, can't remember where you are on this, but Mayenda is a right winger. That, when you showed earlier, we had the progressive pass chart, I think it was, and we had Traore all the way up on the right wing. Yeah. To me, if you're going to take the risk of basically saying we're going to play Traore with Isidore and they're going to be the most advanced players, is it too simplistic to just think, well, Mayenda can play on the right, and if we're not asking him to do tons of defensive stuff, why not throw him there when we know he plays well with... Yeah, this is the chart to talk about. We know that Mayenda and Isidore have got like a connection. Is that not something that we should start thinking about?
Maybe it is. I mean, if you're going to play like that and push the right winger up, then Mayenda makes sense up there. And there was another shot that was a still from the game where we're in possession, approaching the final third, which I think was this one. And you can see up the top of the screen, that's number 25 closest to us on the bottom right. That is Traore in line with Wilson Isidore. So if you're going to play like this, but without 5 at the back, if you're going to play like this and try and make that stretch, then maybe that is a Mayenda who plays in that role and not Traore. The reason Traore was favoured there is because he's prepared to do the running and will hold shape defensively and was comfortable interchanging with Trey Hume. And there were many times when Traore was to be found at right back when the play was in the middle of the park, and then in a break they would swap again. And I think Mayenda, would be less comfortable filling in at right back when the ball's moving through the middle of the park. So maybe that's an option. Maybe Mayenda is the answer on the right wing if we're going to push up like that. But I don't know. It's certainly plausible. He's done well on the right wing before. I think he'd be happy to get on the pitch. And when he receives the ball in space, he's such a handful to knock off it. So but I mean, how fast is he? How fast is Mayenda? He's not as fast as Talby or Adingra. He can beat a man in a different way, but if you have Le Fay on the left and Mayenda on the right, you don't have very much pace on the flank.
Yeah, but then if you look at how Everton line up, I mean, I'm looking at the team that they played against Tottenham. Now, they lost this game 3-0, which could mean that they change up how they play. But on their left side, which obviously go up against our right side, it's Mikalenko and Grealish. That's a pretty attacking fullback and a very attacking player. On the other side, they're basically playing with a centre back. Jake O'Brien's playing in at their right back position, so he's essentially a centre back. Then they've got Illiman and Dye, who's going to be a big problem in the game. I mean, he's a fantastic player. That front four for Everton, to be fair, is a threat and a problem that we're going to have to deal with. But I think that because they've got attacking fullbacks, there's two ways of looking at it. You can either do what we did this past weekend, where you try and stifle Reece James, as it was, or stifle whoever the Chelsea fullback was, or by being so advanced, or you put a more defensive winger out there to try and nullify their threat. And I suppose it just depends how our manager approaches it. But
does he play 5 at the back because Grealish is playing?
No, I don't think he plays 5 at the back at all.
I don't think so either. But apart from Alderete coming back in, you're making the assumption that Hertrauder is dropped from the back line. And you saw in the stats, he was brilliant. He was as good as Mukiele. And so where do you play him? Because I mean, he's not really a right winger either.
Well, the thing is we are ruling out a back 5, but I think the way that if you watch the review show, which I presume you have if you're watching this preview show, but in the review show, you talked about how sort of versatile that formation really was. And while it sounds defensive, it's a back 5. In reality, it wasn't that defensive. You look at the threats that Everton have, their best area of the field is their attacking third. And is that the way we deal with that? And we do go with that back 5 and try and play in a similar way to what we did against Chelsea, where it means that we've got a little bit more just versatility around the team, and it gives us more moving parts. I think often what a back 3 stroke back 5 does for me is it makes you very difficult to understand as an opponent, because it means you can shift players around. It's very easy to move from a 3 at the back to a 5 to a 4, and you can do that really easily throughout the game. Whereas if you're playing a traditional back 4, for me, it's much harder to be versatile. I remember Tony Mowbray trying the Trey Hume when he was moving him into central midfield. That just didn't really work. And that's because it was a 4 at the back. I think 5 at the back, it gives you the chance to sort of move that around. So I don't know. Have we seen enough of this back 5 to suggest that it could be a long-term tactic? I'm not sure, but I think Everton at home, he surely goes with his tried and trusted 4-3-3.
Well, I think so. I think he would. Yeah, I don't think it would go down very well. But as you pointed out, the moment we're in possession, it is never a back 5. It's a 4-4-2 almost, or a 4-5-1. It's never a back 5, and that was incredibly successful at Chelsea. But we're not playing Chelsea. We're playing a side that will be much more wary, that will sit back much more, that relies on the long ball much more, that isn't going to try and that won't dominate the midfield with flooding numbers as much as before. I mean, they don't have Caicedo in the midfield, who we have to stifle and run rings around, or Enzo. So I don't think we need to do that. So I don't know. But the trouble is that we have a lot of players who are magnificent in their defensive capacity. I could have just stopped at magnificent in defensive capacity. So
that's what I like.
Yeah, yeah. But you've got Alderete and Hertrauder, who possibly can't fit into a back line. If you've got Reinildo, Hume, Ballard, Mukiele, then there's Alderete and Hertrauder who can't fit in. Are we really going to not start at least one of those? Hertrauder was the second best defensive unit on the field after Mukiele. But are you going to drop Ballard? You're not going to play Alderete. This is terrible. So then what do you do? Do you put them in midfield where we have Siddiqui, Xhaka, Lefay? They're all quite solid defensively. And if you looked at the position maps, again, you can see that Lefay hangs much more inside as the right winger in a sort of average progression than Traore did. So I just think, are you going to play Hertrauder in there again? Then you become incredibly defensive. So even if you're playing a 4, you have the danger of playing some of these players about ending up being far too defensive with not enough pace on the to take advantage of ball that we will win at the base of that midfield. So there's got to be some wingers in there that start, I think. And I think the only real question is that Traore or not?
Yeah, I think there's more questions than that, to be fair. So we've just spent 20 minutes talking about. How do we win the game? That's a question I've wrote in here, and I sort of put a tweet on yesterday when I saw Everton concede 2 goals from corners and put a nice picture of Regis Le Bris licking his lips, essentially, at that prospect. But actually, Everton have actually been solid from set pieces all season. I think they were the first 2 goals they've conceded from corners this season. But I can't help but think we'll look at that and think, Pickford was not great necessarily on those. It looked like he wasn't, like Roofs is a bit more commanding and would come out and punch them balls. And I think that maybe that's an area we can exploit, but it feels again very simplistic. And I think I'm falling into the trap all the time of basically thinking the only way Sunderland can win games of football is set pieces and long throws and stuff. And that obviously is not true. And I think we've got the quality to score goals from open play, and I think that maybe me as a fan, and I think the fan base generally kind of just falls back to, well, we are really good at set pieces and we have players like Dan Ballard who are so good in the box that's how we win games of football. It's a weapon we can use. But do you think, I suppose, A, how do we win the game? But B, do you think having less pressure potentially changes our approach to it? Because this game could have been a must-win. It really could have been a must-win if we hadn't picked up the results we had. And now it's very much obviously we want to win, but if we lose, it's not the end of the world.
Well, if we turn out and this isn't the players don't treat this as an absolute must-win, fight to win, that would be the first time that we've ever seen that happen. So I don't think it does happen. Do we beat them with nice set pieces? Maybe it's always going to be an option, but Everton, I think, are 6th for touches in the opposition box, and I think they're 5th. I think for possession 1 in the final third, a 6th for possession 1 in the final third. So they will be advanced, and they will attempt to try to box us in. They will try to steal the ball. They will, try to play into the box. Particularly you think about Grealish in that regard. And so I think taking the ball at the base of that midfield on our own 18-yard box, breaking play up there, is going to leave us lots of space in behind. And that's why I think we have to have pace on the wing, because there's going to be those chances. And I think those are the chances that will be most obvious, most presentable, most frequently against Everton. It will be catching them, stealing possession from them just on or outside the 18-yard box and transitioning very quickly, because they will be in a shape where they were attempting to play into the box or will press us in possession. What was it? Wolves. In the Wolves game, you commented on this when we did the review last week about that, how they attempted to bait Wolves' press it was frightening at times, by playing out with Ballard and Xhaka and Alderete. And you think, my God, some of those passes are pretty fine, crisscrossing across the box. And we tried to do that to create an extra man in midfield and therefore play out. We might see some of that again, but that would necessitate Alderete starting.
So. Interesting. Well, yeah. I think we've covered off everything we need to. We've ran pretty much as we said, 30 minutes. So that's good. We're getting better as time goes on, and not run and run and run and run. And
the only thing we haven't debated, which I am assuming we agree on, is that Isidore starts and Roof start.
Yeah. I think so. I think Isidore deserves it. And look, Robbie, I think he's a weapon we can utilize in the game. We saw what he can do. That physicality, it could be important. And obviously Mayenda, we've not seen a lot of recently, and he hasn't done a lot wrong this season.
It's great to have so many options. Didn't we sign some fella for a lot of money we haven't missed at all?
Yeah, we did. Habib's. Yeah. You forget about him. I mean, I remember being almost in a meltdown when he got injured, and we've won 3 games out of 4 without him.
Yeah. Well, if you look at the starting 11 against Chelsea, away to Stamford Bridge, they've lost 1 game in the last 12 months, like I said, when they've had 11 men on the field, and we beat them, and 2 of that starting 11 go to AFCON. So, I mean, maybe we just don't need to worry about that at all,
the AFCON thing. It does make me laugh. I watched Conor McGilligan did a video yesterday, maybe, and he was talking about, the potential changes in AFCON. And I do think that something that's completely overblown by people outside of the football club, because For me,
Yeah.
I look at the team and I'm like, well, the back four, yes, we lose Reinildo and we lose Masuaku, but we also have all the other players in there, and we've got Dennis Serkin to come in. Our keeper stays there. Xhaka stays in the team. Yes, we lose Siddiqui. We've already lost Diarra anyway, so obviously it's a big loss, but it's not a great loss because we're already playing without him. And then, yes, the wings, but we already know that our wing positions are weird anyway because we can't actually settle on who our best wingers are. It's not like we've got an outstanding winger who losing means we're going to lose goals, because I feel like we haven't seen that yet from any of our wingers. Obviously, Lefay's been brilliant, Talby's been brilliant, but they're not set in stone as they are the best wingers, like Xhaka is to the team.
Mundell will be fit by then. Lefay remains. Mayenda can play on the right. Wilson can play on the left. I think there are plenty of options there.
And we've got Brobby, who can, we could potentially play with Isidore, Mayenda, and Brobby.
I would love to see that one game this season. I would love to see that as a front line.
Leeds at home over Christmas.
Wouldn't that be terrifying for the opposition if that was your front line?
Yeah, it would be scary. So anyway, we'll leave you on that happy note of maybe seeing those three play together this season. So thanks again for joining me for 3 episodes this week. Taff, all ending, and we'll catch you all next week. I don't know what day we'll record because obviously Sunderland play Monday Night Football, so we'll have to figure out when we will do.
When do we play again? When do we play again after that?
Saturday evening. So we'll probably record maybe Tuesday or Wednesday. We'll figure it out anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
If needs be. But yeah, thanks everyone for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. And yeah, we'll see you next week.